Nursing students, time to talk. Welcome to the Real Talk School Nursing Podcast. I'm your good and faithful host, Michael Smith. I have a great episode this week. I'm playing around with the idea that every episode is going to have 3 segments. And this is where I'll need help from you, the listening audience, to share your experiences, ask questions, and give feedback. I'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. Thanks to everyone who liked the page and shared the giveaway post for this week. Listen to the end of the show to hear if your name is picked for the 16-ounce thermos food jar with spoon. Speaking of that, we hit 400 followers on our Facebook page this last week. Thank you so much. Now, what I'm asking for is crazy, but I really hope that we can do it. Can you help me get to 500 likes by my birthday? My birthday is Friday, April 26th. At the end of the month, I hope to have a very special surprise for all of you as a way to say thank you. I have a lot in the works, but for now, let's get the show rolling. If you like the show, the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Libsyn Web Player, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So go to wherever you download podcasts. Subscribe, rate us, review us, right into the show. Smash that subscribe button. And remember to leave only 5-star reviews, because that's the only ratings that count to get us noticed by more nursing students. Right into the show at realtalknursing@gmail.com or on Facebook Messenger. You can also join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. A lot of fun stuff going on Instagram. I try to post something funny or inspiring or thoughtful almost every day. We're building a community of fun and supportive nursing students, and I want you to be a part of this crazy nursing school journey. So the last show, I said the past few weeks prior to that show had felt like a whirlwind. It was the last few weeks of the program, as far as classes went. And I got to tell you, if that was true then, the past couple weeks now have been like a hurricane. It's been nonstop. So classes ended, and then we had the weekend, and then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the first Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afterwards. The school was in spring break, so we were the only people on campus. So it's my entire cohort are the only real students on campus, and we took the Kaplan Content Review course. It was 3 days, just our class, 8 hours per day. We actually got 5 to 10 minute breaks every hour, like you're supposed to, and even got an hour-long lunch. I'm going to repeat that. We got an hour-long lunch in the middle of the day. It was amazing. So, it was long enough where we could actually warm up the food that we brought, or even go out and get something and then come back. And, it was a wild ride. And let me tell you, 8 hours a day for three days. I mean, technically it spanned over 9 hours, but, 8 hours of actually sitting in class per day for 3 days. It was a wild ride. It was pretty crazy and very dense. I thought the class was taught really well, even if it was very frustrating because there were so many word nuances that were just almost unexplainable. And I'll try to capture that with this example. So there were 2 questions, and they were about 2 hours apart, and they were basically about the same thing. A kid gets a tonsillectomy, right? The first one, we say the answer is, watch for frequent swallowing. And that was actually the answer. The second one was very similar and had slightly different answer choices, but one of them was the child is swallowing often. So we choose that, we chose that answer based on the same justification as the first. The kid's bleeding or hemorrhaging and swallowing all the blood, and therefore creating both an airway and a circulatory hazard. So if you're going through, a decision tree type thing, this is the pathway. This is the thought process that you go through. So their pathway is essentially, what's the actual topic of the question? Is it an assessment or an intervention? And then, you apply Maslow. So, physiological over psychosocial, and then if if they're physical or even if they're psychosocial, or not if they're psychosocial, but if they're physical, you do ABCs, or airway, breathing, circulation, safety, on and on and on. And then there's other ways you can, do it depending on what kind of question is, is it stable, unstable, expected, unexpected, and then go through the ABCS again, acute, chronic, actual, potential, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so that's the deal. And so we say, it's the same answer. It's just child is swallowing off, and that's the thing. And the instructor said it was a different answer, and honestly, I couldn't tell you what it was because, this one only. But she said it was a different answer because this one only said often instead of frequently. So, so 3 days of that very frustrating stuff where, as a cohort, as students, most of my classmates are used to getting 90s. Like, some of them are not used to any score or any grade being below 95%. For those of us who are, a little less academically gifted, I'll say academically gifted than they are. We're a little bit used to the 80s, the low 80s. So, that's normal. But anyway, so we get done with all that but we're sitting there in class and I'm like, man, I'm getting like not even half of these right. I'm kind of trying to keep tally. And about halfway through the first day, I had to stop keeping tally of how many, or what my percentage was for getting things right. Cause it was just ridiculous. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like between 50 and 65%. I'm getting these right. This is not good. So anyway, we get done with all that and we get done with the 3 days and now we're completely on our own. We've gotten, it's now Thursday. So it's Thursday. We've gotten our final grade for the class, but our transcripts haven't, been updated and, confirmation hasn't been sent from our registrar to, the pathway that it goes on, to get our ATT or our authorization to test letter. And so we're all, of course, like gnashing our teeth, we're emailing or Facebooking or, whatever. And we're just bemoaning the small, the slow system and why isn't this done yet? And I'm sure that like the registrar is just like every time they hear a email ding, they're like, oh my God, it's this stupid nursing cohort again, so we're just gnashing our teeth and bemoaning the slow system. And then a week ago, so this is, again, that was Thursday. So last Monday, I was talking on the phone with a friend and my phone buzzed and I looked down and there's the email. It's from Pearson VUE. My authorization to test letter had finally arrived. And it's the moment we've all been waiting for. I mean, like this, this is like the on-ramp to the highway to hell, and, why am I frozen? Why am I frantically not opening the letter and look, so I can get on there and look at the schedule and see when I can take my test. And eventually I did look and looked at my options. And I got to tell you, they were not great. The 3 or 4 test locations that were in my area, there was only a few spots left and, probably out 3 or 4 weeks. So if I totaled up all the time, including the content review class, I think I was at like a week and a half or a week at that point. So when I got the letter and then, so I say, okay, so I want another 3 or 4 weeks from now. So I've got like I've got like a 4 to 5 week study window that I'm doing all this on. And there was only a few spots left and they were not great. I was like, yeah. So I was not impressed and it felt really soon. I looked at one of the dates and I'm like, all right, I know this was my target date, but very, very early. And so you might ask, is like, well, Michael, why are you in such a hurry? I haven't really told anybody, but I've accepted a job as an ER nurse about 35 about 35 miles away from where I live, which is, by country standards, a pretty nice commute. It's pretty easy. It's a level 2 trauma center, and it's one of the busiest ERs in the area. So, a little pressure there, but, nothing I can't handle, I don't think. So, and I'm really hoping that I can keep up with the volume and, with my coworkers, but I start next month. And yes, of course, I know that I could push my start date back. I could email the manager who hired me, and I said, hey, I need to, take another week or, whatever it is to take my NCLEX date, or this was the soonest NCLEX date that I could get where I felt comfortable to pass. And I could do that. But I've waited long enough. My scores statistically are passing, where there's like a 95% chance that I'm going to pass it the first time. I'm feeling pretty good about it. My scores are up. There's a couple categories where I'm lower than the others, but I've been working on those, so those have been coming up. It's time. And so I'm testing the day before my birthday, hoping that by the close of business on my birthday, I'll have an RN license. And that kind of brings me to the next thing, is that I want to get to 500 Facebook likes by my birthday, by the end of the month. I'll just say by the end of the month. So by the end of the month. And, this is kind of to celebrate, 500 likes, getting my RN, and my birthday. So those three things, and here's what I want. Well, I know what I want to do, but I need to get all my ducks in a row before I overpromise and underperform. So just know that something awesome is coming, but I need your help. So it took, to get 100 likes, it took about 6 weeks. And if I'm looking at a calendar, we got about 3 weeks to do about 80 or 90 likes or something like that. So that's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of effort on your part. And I'll do my part. I will. But please share the Facebook page with your friends. For new listeners or new subscribers to the podcast, and if you're new to the Facebook page or Instagram account, find a fellow nursing student or another aspiring nursing student or an aspiring nurse or a nurse, and maybe even one that you consider a friend, and punish them by sharing the show with them. And I'll thank you in advance. I'll say more about this later, but please share the show. I know that I say that a lot, and I know that I ask a lot of you as listeners, and I really do appreciate all the things that you guys have done for the show and for the Facebook page up to now. But I'd really like to do that, and that I think will really set the tone for the big kind of surprise that I want to do. And I'll reveal it later. I just want to make sure that I have everything set in place before I announce what it is. But it's going to be awesome. So please share it. Let's hit 500 Facebook likes by the end of the month, and get that all that done. So okay, so moving on. I hope to keep the overall show pretty short today, so I'm sorry for that. I still have a bunch of remediation to do in my Kaplan exams. And here's kind of my process. So if you're looking forward, or looking forward, air quote, looking forward to this process, I'll kind of share what I'm doing. So I still have a lot of remediation to do on the exams that I'm taking. So my process is, no matter if I get the question right or wrong, I review it and make sure that I know that I got it right for the correct reason. This morning I took a 150 question test, and it takes me about 2 hours to take and about 6 to 8 hours to remediate. So it takes me a long time to go through, and I'm learning the whole time, which is actually pretty neat, because there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of stuff that I'm learning, and some of it's for the first time, and some of it is, some of it's just, being able to actually put things together. Say it louder. Say real talk.
Real talks
School.
School of Nursing.
So sorry for bouncing all over the place in this episode. The last thing for this little mini segment here, again, I'm sorry for bouncing all over the place. If you're in prereqs, if you're in nursing school prereqs, you're doing your A&P, you might be doing some stats, you're doing some psych classes, or if you're in nursing school, you've just started, or you're a year in, you're in a 4-year program, a 2-year program, a 3-year, or like a 2-in-1 bridge program or something like that, or you're in the limbo, between them. I am living proof that there is life after nursing school. So I had my pinning ceremony this last weekend. And I think if you've listened to me, I think you'd be able to tell I was lying if I said I didn't have delusions of grandeur, that I would be giving the speech for our cohort. And to take nothing away from my classmates who did the speeches, they were wonderful, very heartfelt, and the best part, they broke the past 2 years down into some stats, and I can't go through them all because I can't remember them all, but it was really great. It was like how many pages of care plans. There was one point where, they said, well, between, most of us had, this many, and then they focused in on one of my classmates. So I think her first care plan, all of us were in the, if we were all double spaced, I think most of us were probably in the 30, we'll just say 30 to 40 in our first 3 care plans, 30 to 40 page double spaced care plans. She was 60. And I think her second one was like 75 pages or something. It was ridiculous. She's just, her ability to be succinct is not great. So, but they, it was like how many pages of care plans and how many seconds there were. I did something called a circle of pain, where I had it broken down. Here's how many months, weeks, days, hours, minutes, seconds, and one of my classmates is standing up there, and they're doing the speech together, and he broke down how many seconds, and he called them tears. So there's it's like 2.35 million tears, and he actually started to choke up, and it was really, again, it was a very heartfelt, really wonderful experience. And anyway, so it was like how many credits and so on. It was amazing. It was a really good speech. The only thing that I would have added, if I were up on stage looking out at my classmates and their friends and their families, I'd say something like this. My friends, when we started this journey, I knew that I would see all of your faces here today. The only face that I thought I wouldn't see here was my own. We all know that as we're going through all these classes, there's at least one point in all of our experiences where we are completely convinced that we're getting kicked out, or that we had to quit, or we would fail out. So besides studying for the NCLEX, which I'm doing a lot, I have taken great pleasure in small things. And there are things that I hadn't even realized that I missed. Suddenly, and this is maybe not a good thing, suddenly I could see the mess of my house, and I actually could pick things up. I could vacuum. I could clean the kitchen. I could clean the whole bathroom instead of just the toilet or just the sink or just the shower. I cleared out the study dungeon. I got all my books out a couple weeks ago. I got them organized. I brought other books in specifically for studying the NCLEX. I set up 3 giant whiteboards. I'm on cloud 9. For anyone who hasn't listened to the show before, I freaking love whiteboards. I love them. And I'm sure, again, I will talk about them again very soon. I cleaned out my car yesterday and I washed it. Another person can actually sit in the front seat now. When I bring the kids to daycare, they aren't climbing over yet more books that are carted back and forth between classes and the study dungeon. It's been a couple weeks of small pleasures, bringing my kids to daycare, picking them up and making dinner with them, bedtime stories instead of being in class until 9 or 10 at night, and then having a 90-minute commute home. There are drawbacks too. I really miss my classmates. The last 2 years have forged some great friendships that I'm surely gonna miss. I also get stuck in my study dungeon way too many hours in a day. But I'm learning a lot too. This past few weeks, I've really been able to put some important concepts together, probably because I think I actually have time to think. And so the point is, there's life after school, and probably more important, you're going to make it. Sponsoring this segment of the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is NRSNG.com. Go to the Real Talk School of Nursing Facebook page or Twitter feed and click on the link to get your $1 trial. I found NRSNG.com as a first-year nursing student. I did my trial and I was hooked. Since then, NRSNG.com has added tons of great content and continues to add more. NRSNG.com is a complete education platform for nurses, nursing students, and includes video and audio courses, cheat sheets for quick reference, a mobile app, a huge question bank, and a solid SimClex. NRSNG.com is a complete solution and they aren't overpriced. Not just preparing students for a test, NRSNG.com provides a home base that members can reference anytime as a nurse. Go to the Real Talk School of Nursing Facebook page or Twitter feed and click on the link for your $1 trial. That's NRSNG.com, and don't forget to go through the link on the Real Talk School of Nursing Facebook page or Twitter feed. Okay, everybody, it's story time. I asked some listeners and some people I know about some of their experiences in nursing school and in nursing in general, and I'll try to do some of the stories justice. I did a test read through some of these, and I'm sorry, I'm already starting to laugh, so I'll try to do the stories justice. The first story is called First Quiz. I remember my first quiz. I did better than most, and I felt pretty good. Then I got a 2 out of 5 on the second one and questioned my ability to make it through school. Proof is in the pudding, though. I just finished, so if I did, you can. Just keep working. Nursing school isn't the same as being a nurse. Nursing school is ridiculous. The next one is called Objectivity, and this is from a friend of mine who served with me and is already a nurse. And I was told by a nursing instructor that pain and stress is completely objective and we must take everything as seriously as everything else. I dared question this and stated that I didn't personally feel that being a leader in combat, with literal bullets flying and people being wounded and dying around you, compared to the stress of losing one's keys. She scolded me and told me they were the same and I should reconsider my majoring as a nurse. Sorry, it was worded funny. I guess I didn't read that one very well, but she scolded me. Nursing school is freaking crazy. The next one is called why I don't work in the ER anymore. And again, I will apologize. It's when I'm trying to read this, it's the only way that I can do it to keep this one straight, because there's kind of some back and forth. So, why I don't work in the ER anymore. So this is what my shifts were like. A woman comes into the ED. I say, so what's going on? I've been throwing up all day. When did it start? 6 o'clock tonight. On the outside, I say, oh, like an hour ago? Inside, are you effing kidding me? Yes, just one time so far. Has anyone else been sick? Yeah, the kids have been sick all week. So, what did the doctor say they had? I didn't bring them to the doctor. In my inside narrative voice, so you've thrown up one time in the last hour, and you're sitting in the ER, and your kids have been sick all week and have not seen a provider. What I actually said was, okay, what do you think they have? A stupid mother, I say to myself. But what I actually said was, not sure. The next one is called the school, air quotes, nurse. The school nurse, aka secretary, called and said my 11-year-old daughter had chicken pox. Seems a little bit strange, but I go to the school and looked at my daughter, and she had a pimple on her forehead. I said, you have a pimple, go back to class. The secretary said they needed a note from a medical professional. So I wrote it on a Post-it note and signed my name with an extra large RN afterwards and walked out. It's kind of legendary. So this next one's called Studying for Farm. And unbidden, a few tips and tricks and suggestions came into, and since today's kind of a mixed bag anyway, I'll just throw them in. So the writer says, I get asked all the time, how do you learn all the medications? And they answer, you have to write them yourself. Reading and rereading someone else's printed stuff or copying and pasting it onto a Word document or Google document isn't going to do it. So it's old school, but go buy yourself between 5 and, depending on how many medications you have to learn, between 5 and 50 packs of index cards and a huge pack of colored pens, because your ability to recall colored writing is better than if you're just writing in black. So, and as an aside to this, like if I assign orange to antiarrhythmics or something like that, or to probably a better example, so antiemetics, then I know when I see some kind of medication, I was like, oh yeah, it's not just orange, but it's, it's this. So, whatever it is, you can remember colors. So each body system gets their own color, and that gives you multiple ways to remember stuff. Anyway, so sorry. Lastly, don't remember each drug. There are thousands. Just try to remember naming conventions. Stigmine, LOL, fluoxetine, etc. Example, you should know that a pril, P-R-I-L, as a prefix, suffix, as a suffix, is an ACE inhibitor, and, what those do. So if you see a drug that you've never seen before, you've never heard of it, but it ends with pril, boom. You know what it's mainly for, you know what the generic side effects are, etc., etc., etc. The next story is called, I got to try to say this right, the Mara Sillier, Sillier, I think it's French, Mara Sillier story. So I'm a nighttime charge nurse. Okay, sorry. So this is the text of it. So I'm a nighttime charge nurse on a sorry. I'm already starting to laugh at this one. So I'm a shoot. I'm going to make it through this. I'm a nighttime charge nurse on a CVPCU, and one of my nurses came to me in the middle of the night saying that the girlfriend of a patient had an aggressive dog in the room that would growl at her when she walked in. I print out our pet policy and head to the room with the nurse to chat with the lady, figuring that we'll just probably have to tell her that we can't have aggressive animals at the bedside. Normally, we allow 1 or 2 hour visits with well-behaved, leashed, and potty-trained dogs anyway, so this shouldn't be a big deal. So I walk in, and I kid you not, there is a... I'm sorry. So I walk in, and I kid you not, there is a big pink sheepdog in the middle of the room. Bright pink. The woman had to jump up and hold the dog back because it immediately started growling and coming toward us. This lady is clearly on something. She's speaking 100 miles per hour, explaining how she had dyed her dog with Kool-Aid and how if the nurse hadn't fed it Reese's Cups, that apparently the girlfriend had insisted the nurse do to win the dog over from growling. It wouldn't be growling at people. On top of that, the woman had cleared out part of the room and was building custom lamps in the corner. She had a suitcase full of power tools and cloth, and she was using it to build a creepy figure around the base of a lamp. She even tried to sell me one that she was currently making. I wasn't prepared for all that, but I told her that she had to take the dog and the power tools home, which she eventually did. Then around 6 in the morning, I'm sorry. Then around 6 in the morning, the phlebotomist comes up to my desk to tell me that the woman had asked her if she wants to see her baby. I'm sorry. At which point the woman pulled back a blanket and revealed a baby chihuahua that she had snuck back into the unit with her. I left that battle for the day shift to fight and didn't mention it in my report. The next one is called pseudo seizure. One of my favorite docs did this with a seizing patient, air quotes, seizing patient, and said, "It's really, I'm sorry, it's going to feel really cold and maybe sting a little, but it will stop the seizure right away, and you may get a slightly metallic taste in your mouth." Magically, the seizure stopped as he pounded that high dose of normosaline into her IV. It was awesome. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really trying to get through this. Okay. All right. The next one's called Applying to Nursing School. In my first application to a nursing school was through Nursing Cass. They had a series of questions to be answered in paragraph form. I looked at the requirements and started writing a paper. It was a full-blown, researched, cited, and referenced paper, and 2 days before the deadline, I cut and pasted the paper in there. When it didn't paste, I couldn't figure out why, and I looked down and saw a 5,000 character counter. The requirements said it was a 5,000 word limit, which I was way under, but still. So I had to cut this huge paper down by 80 to 90% and submitted the application in the last hour of the application window. The next one is called Do Everything You Can. While I was in nursing school, I had a total care patient. The adult child who lived in the state was realistic, but the adult child who lived in the opposite end of the country flew in, got a power of attorney, and flew back home, then disallowed the local adult child, from talking to the doctors or anything anymore. Her dad is literally at death's doorstop. Diabetes-related bilateral BKA, that's a below-the-knee amputation, Several fingers amputated, MRSA infection. They stopped eating and drinking 2 weeks prior. They were on tube feeding and completely incontinent. Knowing all this, she says, just get my daddy well enough that I can bring him here and I'll take care of him. Well, I'm like, are you gonna put your daddy in your car and drive the 1,500 miles, stopping every 30 to 60 minutes to clean up daddy? Because any longer than about 60 minutes required a total bed change. In quotations, I had tube feeding orders because I'm sorry. I hate tube feeding orders because this patient too. What doc is going to release him to go home anyway, especially in a in a personal vehicle. So this patient just sat there on a med-surg unit, getting tube fed, minimal pain meds, no insulin. We weren't even testing blood glucose, even though he was diabetic, and everything was in limbo. This total care patient who needed to be on hospice, at home, or in their living facility as comfortable as possible was in a ridiculous med-surg floor, not getting the care they deserved. Instead, he got me while I had 4 other patients and was the only guy on the floor, so I helped with every GD transfer and turn the whole shift for every large patient the state apparently had. And so he, of course, died alone, while his 2 daughters bickered over control. A med student went in 60 to 90 minutes after the last nurse was in the room. He was dead, alone. And it still pisses me off, obviously. So coming up is a commercial from one of my friends, Michael Vespa, and Ruthless in Pursuit.
So life is a job. Let's not even begin to pretend like it's not. Between your social life, your career, your family, school, maybe even just relationships, whether that's friendships, significant others, all that. There's so many pieces to the puzzle, and a lot of times that becomes work or a job in itself, and then we don't even know where to begin, and the list goes on and on and on. But where are you in all that? Where are you finding time to build yourself up, to take care of yourself? How are you doing that? Do you even know how to begin to do that? For a lot of us, even knowing where to begin or where to reorganize ourselves or to build ourselves up so that we can improve anything else in our life is the scariest part, and maybe even sometimes the most time consuming. And the fact of the matter is that's not always wrong. We're going to go through that in life, the up, the down, the ebb, the flow. That is just growing and learning. But sometimes with all the millions of billions of information that's out there, it's hard to know what is the right answer. And truth be told, there might never ever be one true answer. But what we do know is there are people that are built out there to help us find who we are and what we want. Not to be told what to do or think what they need for us, but for someone to actually listen to who we want to be and how to build that up. Whether that's health and wellness, learning how to organize your life. If that means, what do I do in the gym to feel better, to look better, to feel stronger, whatever it may be, how do I just improve my life? Well, that's where we can come in. We are Ruthless in Pursuit, and we live by 3 key principles: enrich, empower, and optimize. Our staff lives to enrich your life by finding out who you want to be, how you want to build yourself up, where do you want to go, and who is the person that's going to take you there. And then we empower you by giving you smart, educational, real life coaching. Not talking about, hey, do list A through D and success will follow, but hey, let's look at your life and see how we can build success into it through fitness, wellness, mindset, sleep, recovery, everything that comes with life. And the last part of that is optimizing it for you. Putting a plan together for you so the guesswork is gone. You're no longer bouncing around from thing to thing, but you actually have a coach that cares about who you are, who you want to be, your individual goals on a path that will set you up to love yourself and build yourself up better and look at, hey, how can I maybe implement 1 hour of my day to improve the other 23 that's going on? So if you have questions, you can find us on Instagram at Ruthless in Pursuit. Follow our new client questionnaire with the link in our bio and set up your call to meet with a coach today. We can't wait to help you figure out who it is you want to be.
All right, guys, I just want to say Ruthless in Pursuit has never offered a discount to anyone before, but I asked them, and last week we struck a deal. So contact them through Instagram and let them know that you're a listener from the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast, and they're offering you, this audience only, new customers 15% off. I've been going on this for about 4 weeks now, and I've dropped 20 pounds. Literally 20 pounds. So it's not just exercise, it's not just programming, it's diet advice and all that kind of stuff too. And it's true what he says, how do you make 1 hour a day effective for the rest of the 23? And he's done exactly that for me. All of my nursing school clothes are too loose. I may have noticed a shirt or three that fits a little bit funny and is stretched out in weird places. Must have been the laundry, right? But give them a chance. I did, and it's completely affordable and puts it all in reach for nursing students. I really wish that I would have done this at the beginning of school instead of at the very end. So don't make the same mistake I did. Get a hold of them today and start your journey with Michael Vespa and the Ruthless in Pursuit family. All right, here we go, the moment we've all been waiting for. So here's the deal. If you get your name drawn this week, you get the 16-ounce thermos food jar with spoon. Shipping is on me. You have to email the show at realtalknursing@gmail.com or using Facebook Messenger. Let me know your address and I'll send it out this week. Thank you so much for liking the page and sharing this post. It truly means a lot to me that you're spending your valuable time with us on the podcast, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Stay tuned and watch for upcoming podcasts and the announcement of what I'm doing at the end of the month to celebrate my birthday. The hopefully forthcoming 500 likes will hit by the 26th of April, and to celebrate my ascension into officially being an RN. Don't forget Ben and Greg's show, the Shift Report podcast, which can be found wherever you download podcasts. And they're also on Instagram. Check them out. They have a lot of great content. Okay, so please write in, and when you get this thermos, please snap pictures with you and your new Real Talk School of Nursing merch and share it with us. Take it with you and get some pictures with friends or at work, in lab, or in the great outdoors. Have fun with it and share it with the rest of the Real Talk School of Nursing family. All right, so let me get my super expensive Diet Coke 24 can stuff. And let me tell you, this thing has been stacked. One of our listeners was adamant that they were going to get this thing. So they had a whole bunch of entries. So I think I kind of know who it's going to go to. But here we go. All right. Mix it up. Reach in. All right. Wow. Not the name I expected, but here we go. Anna Marie Kilgore. Anna Marie Kilgore, you are the winner of the Thermos 16-ounce food jar with spoon. So make sure you write in, and can't wait to hear from you. If you like the show, the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Libsyn Web Player, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So go to wherever you download podcasts. Subscribe, rate us, review us, right into the show. Smash that subscribe button. And remember to leave only 5-star reviews, because that's the only ratings that count to get us noticed by more nursing students. Write into the show at realtalknursing nursingschools@gmail.com or on Facebook Messenger. You can also join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. A lot of fun stuff going on Instagram. I try to post something funny or inspiring or thoughtful almost every day. We're building a community of fun and supportive nursing students, and I want you to be a part of this crazy nursing school journey. It was awesome chatting with you today. I had a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to keep this podcast rolling. There's more to nursing school than just content. Remember, in nursing school, the only easy day was yesterday. This show isn't about solving your problems, but you should know that you don't face them alone. We can get through this together. This Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a Real Talk production. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of Doc Thompson. To his wife and his family, my continued prayers and support.
Sic semper tyrannis, facta non verba.
Good night, Steve Cannon. Wherever you are. Annyeong Kaseo. Now, you go home. The Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a holy moly, I can't believe you're still listening to this podcast.